Here we are back at Brighty of the Grand Canyon. The next chapter is Trapped by the Snow. The snow flowed on and on steadily all night. By morning, the three creatures were locked in a white prison. The ranch house was no longer a fort, it was a jail, and the jailer the snow. Jack Irons paced in front of the window, hands clenched behind him. The window pane was barred and cross-barred by the snow. The tiny flakes were driving him mad. They were really nothing but froth. He could take a handful and crush them. He could shoot them with his rifle into splashes, yet they laughed in his face like millions of guards holding him, handcuffing him to a burro with eyes all-knowing, and to a greenhorn boy with frostbitten feet. He turned from the window and deliberately stomped on Brighty's tail as if he were responsible for the storm. With a howl of pain, the burro scrambled to his feet, humped his hindquarters toward Irons. The man broke into a laugh of scorn. "See that, kid? Your bright angel can't kick no higher than a cricket anymore. His spirit's broken. You'll get that way too, boy, living in nothing but air." He squinted his eyes at Homer, trying to peer through his sweater to see if a silver star were pinned beneath. "Looky here, fellow," he said in a wheedling voice. "What's a young punk like you doing in forest time this time of year, huh?" Homer was rubbing his feet, wincing at the pain. "I've been offered a job as a lumberjack," he said, his voice low. "Where at?" "Across the canyon to Flagstaff." "Why'n you take it?" The blizzard caught me," the boy answered, still rubbing his feet. "I couldn't find the way. Been wandering for days all over the mountain." He swallowed hard. "I should have listened to Uncle Jim. I should have listened." "Put your brain," Irons exploded. "Not one but two jackasses in this here cell. Now who's this Uncle Jim?" Homer looked up in surprise. "Why, everybody knows Uncle Jim, even—" Irons came a step toward the boy and shouted, "Answer me! Who's Uncle Jim?" "Uncle Jim," Homer said earnestly, "is the lion killer sent here by the government." In his mind he saw the gentle face, gray eyes smiling under the black hat. "He's a mountain man and canyon man, and he knows weather and lions and buffalo." "And burros too, I suppose." "This one for sure. He saved Brighty's life 2-3 times." "Where's he at?" Irons shot his question. "He's holed up for the winter back in Fredonia." "Oh, I should have listened." "Don't begin that braying again." Last words he said was, "Wait till spring, Homer. Only Brighty could smell out the trail now." Jack Irons curled his lip. Brighty. He snatched up the rifle. "If you don't quit making an angel out of him, I will." Homer sprang up, forgetting the pain in his feet. He pulled out his knife. Irons laughed deep in his throat. "Can't take a joke, can you, kid? One minute you're a sniveling sissy and the next a wildcat. You make me sick. If I was to kill anyone, it'd be you, Burro's only bray." He scratched his beard with a dirty hand. "Now you're here, you can nurse yourself. Plenty of snow water to guzzle and some apples as wrinkly as your grandma's face. Me, I practically lives on no food at all, especially if it's apples. They bloat my stomach." He threw a log on the fire and wrapped himself in his blanket, the rifle beside him. "Might as well sleep out the storm," he mumbled to himself. With Brighty tailing him, Homer limped to the door. Snow had sifted in over the threshold, and he swept it together with his hands and swallowed it. He went to the cupboard next and took an apple and ate it all, chewed up core and seeds too. As soon as it was gone, he felt mean and selfish. He went back for another, this time giving half to Brighty. He stood watching the burro eat and felt good for the sharing. Satisfied, Brighty buckled his knees and eased down on his side in front of the salt house. He wriggled and squirmed, trying to get comfortable on the hard floor. The boy crossed the room and settled down back to back against the burro. He sighed, enjoying the warm animal smell. It was good and comforting, too, to be near Brighty again. He let his eyes wander sleepily about the room, and they lighted on the rifle. "You know," he mused drowsily, "Uncle Jim had a fine rifle like that one. Teddy Roosevelt gave it to him personal, only he's had a big gold plate with writing on it." Irons' nerves tightened. He sat up, scrutinizing Homer's face in the firelight. Did the boy know? Had he known all along? Then a wave of relief washed over him as he saw that Homer was simply talking himself to sleep. He watched the blond head sink deeper into Brighty's shaggy coat. He watched sleep come, and when the boy's arms thumped heavily to the floor, Irons got up and dug into the mound of ashes at the edge of the fire. His hands found the tin can, slyly pried open the lid, and pulled out the back of the squirrel warmed to taste. He looked at it a moment, and then the gold teeth set to work tearing off bits of flesh. When the meat was ground and swallowed, he cracked the bones and sucked them, and at last he crunched and ate them too. "Homer," he barked, wiping his beard, "wake up and feed the fire." Now the next chapter is Alone with the Night. Snow, never-ending snow. Wave on wave it sifted down, slantwise and spirally, dusting its fine white powder over the kabob forest. Morning came, and night, and morning again, and still it fell. Stealthily the white mass crept up the sides of the house. It piled thickly against the window, filling the space between the bars, blocking out the light. The three creatures were buried alive by the gray-white mass that wheeled out of the sky and made night of day. The cupboard now was completely bare except for the useless bag of seeds. Brighty alone had something to eat, but there was a hollowness inside him that the bitter bark could not fill. He drew away to himself. By day he took refuge in the darkness of the salt house, and there he stayed, dozing some, nibbling some on the logs, and licking the salt for comfort. But mostly he stood in a stupor, head down, tail tucked in. Only at nightfall did he come out of his hermitage and join the others at the fireside. Then, with his eyes climbing the ladder to the hole in the ceiling, he brayed to the night. It was as if he saw a moon and stars instead of black emptiness. The first time Homer heard him, his voice fell to an awed whisper. "I have a ghostly feeling," he said, "that Brighty's sending off some kind of message." The dire sound and the regularity made Iron's flesh creep. For each evening, as the bray started up, he would take out his watch and check the time, and each evening it showed exactly 5 o'clock. Shaking his head, he would slide the key into the face of the watch, and slowly wind while Brighty's cry faded away. "Who you figure Broomtail'd call to?" Irons asked one night as he returned the watch to his pocket. Homer's eyes grew big. "Could be the living," he said, "or could be the dead." "Like, for instance, like an old prospector who he used to know, or maybe Uncle Jimmy Owen." Quick hatred leaped into Iron's eyes. His fist swung out and struck Homer a blow that sent him sprawling across the floorboards. The boy was too stunned to move. He watched in terror as Irons came slowly toward him, sharp canine teeth biting down on his words. "Don't mention neither of them two again. Never." There was a death-like silence as Brighty slow-footed his way to the salt house, and the two men were alone with the night. Alone in the forest with the snow tightening around them, and no sound but Brighty gnawing on the wood, stripping it, grinding it, and then silence again, and the watch, ticking, ticking, ticking. The two occupants had divided the room as sharply as if barbed wire reached across the middle of it. The half near the fire belonged to Irons, the half near the salt house to Homer. Now Homer huddled far into his corner, nursing his chin and his burning feet by turns. He tried to sleep, but his ears refused to shut out the relentless ping of the seconds. Suddenly he leaped up and ran into the salt house, coming out with the roll of wire and a piece of old canvas. A cold glint came into Iron's eyes. "What you doing? Figuring on escaping? Alone? Hey, kid?" Homer turned a brave face to the man. No, I'll make you a pair, too." "Pair of what? Wings?" "Snowshoes." Iron's hollow laugh shattered the quiet. He sat cross-legged in his blanket to watch, his narrowed eyes on Homer's fingers. The boy talked nervously as he shaped the wire into frames. "I'll make 'em beaver-tail style. No, they'd be too hard to handle in deep snow. I'll make 'em like a bear's paw." When 4 frames were roughly shaped, he began tearing the canvas into strips for the webbing. But the effort exhausted him, and he fell back on his blankets, too tired to go on. By now, Irons had fallen asleep sitting up, chin resting on his chest and unkempt hair hiding his eyes. Homer was relieved to be free of their fixed gaze. He tried to sleep too, one hand tucked inside his shirt for warmth, the other on the hilt of his hunting knife. Brighty slipped up unheard and nosed him. Homer reached out to stroke the shaggy neck, and so, comforting each other, they both dropped off to sleep. Mist wrapped itself about the house, and there was a heavy and ominous silence within. Terror shot through Iron's dreams. "Got to get out of this coffin," he mumbled. "Windows blocked, doors blocked, soon the window upstairs. No food left, starving. Listen to the watch. It knows more than it tells. Break it. Homer, worn out with fatigue, slept on while the frantic voice kept talking to itself. Starving. Starving. Got to get out of here. Listen, it's a time clock. Tick, tick, tick. It's now, it knows the hour of death. Closer, closer. The clock's going off. Break it. Irons woke to his own voice. Drenched in sweat, he threw off his blanket and picked up a chip of wood, lighting it for a torch. He saw the boy still slept, lying against Brighty. His eyes studied the burrow as if he'd never seen him before, weighing the meat on the ribs, counting the mouthfuls. He used the chip as a poker to stir the fire, then with sneaking feet crept across the room, his trigger finger working. The thump of a loose floorboard woke Homer. "Don't move, kid." Irons' voice was coldly quiet. "Else I'll have me 2 carcasses to stew." A slow, sickening horror came into the boy's face as he caught the meaning of the words. The cold voice went on. "Name of bright angel's going to fit now. Not much meat, tough and stringy, but I'm..." He brought the gun to his shoulder and pointed at the wide space between Brighty's ears. Then a small sound arrested him. Without his willing it, the hand that held the rifle froze. Ooh. Almost want to go on to the next chapter, but that's it for tonight. See you later. Bye.